Hello, everybody. Happy Monday to you. September 29th, 2025, and it's a new era of Kentucky roll call. I think that's safe to say. I'm TJ Walker, joined by producer Matt in the producer room. No new intro. There was I didn't think it was going to happen because I certainly thought that if there were to be a new intro, somebody would pass that along to me, but not the case. And there's a 3% chance going into the show today, Matt. I was like, I wonder if they've got something up their sleeve. Not the case, but that's okay. This is KRC. We had to miss Friday, a little weekend getaway to California. It was a good time. Happy to be back. Could have spent maybe another day out there. It's a lot of travel for one full day without travel. Got there Friday, back Sunday. But wedding was incredible. We'll talk about it. Producer Matt, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a slow day so far. Took care of the dogs this morning. Got to sleep in just a little bit, so it was nice.
Well, that sounds nice. Yeah, that's good. And this is your first show of the day, right?
Yes, it's my first one on Monday.
Okay, good. So we get those takes fresh. We appreciate that. We like that. Do we have a new intro for roll call? What are we going to do about that?
There's nothing that I know of.
Well, we got to figure something out.
Yeah, something has to be figured out, but no word has passed through the grapevine.
Roush is gone. He's gone, and he's not coming back.
Well, he's on the Mike Rutherford show now. So.
Well, yes, he's on the Mike Rutherford show, 2:30 to 5:30. So we did. Well, the last thing I want is to hear that guy's name in our show's intro. Can we do just a cheap copy over? Scoots, I know you're listening. You're really good at this stuff. Health update coming, by the way. Can we just do what you do for Spears on Sports, where Spears on Sports, 10 to 11, and Tony. Can you do something like that? And you do, and Producer Matt.
Yeah, I could do that.
Well,
we have to get Roush off of it first, but
no, that's the thing is you would just overlap him when it's like Walker and then we just.
I see what you're saying.
Edit over it with a funny voice. Yeah, okay, we could be onto something there.
Maybe put some fart noises in there or something like that.
We had this Uber driver from the airport in Los Angeles, and he was a chatty Cathy, to say the least. I don't know when you're getting in a Lyft or Uber, what's your preference?
Oh, dead silence.
Okay, you want nothing at all.
I get the whole Uber elevator conversation where it's hey, got a lot of rides tonight or whatever. The introduction, just being kind,
just being polite,
after that,
acknowledging a human.
Nothing more.
Okay, interesting. I think that's probably the correct answer. Pleasantries to show that everybody's normal and nice and whatnot, and having not potentially have an emotional episode, and then everybody just kind of keep to themselves. This guy was nonstop, and he had a really cool car. The amount of Teslas in LA, and I'm sure probably all of California. You see a lot of them in Louisville. That's not to say that you don't come across a bunch of Teslas in Louisville, but it was it seemed almost like every other car was a Tesla out there. So he picks us up in the Tesla, and it had that it had the roof. The ceiling is the roof. Shout out Michael Jordan. But the roof was the glass roof that you could just see. You could see throughout.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty incredible. I mean, that is cool. The car was sweet. He was right to talk about this car for about 45 minutes. And he's just saying how it's the safest and it's the best, and he got this upgrade and that upgrade, and it was all worth it. But then he says, also, my car can fart. And we, entertained him with a chuckle. That was a big mistake. Should have never entertained him with a chuckle. Because then he just started pushing, the fart button just nonstop. So it was just he was like, I can make it the turn signal.
I thought he was so cool.
He was like, when the windshield wipers go on. Oh, yeah.
This guy was like, these podunk hillbillies from Kentucky never seen a car like this before.
That's exactly what he was like. We were like, that's pretty great, man. And he, like, again, he was friendly, so it could have been a lot worse, right? You get just somebody that's a jerk, I suppose. But it was just like, all right, we have just been on 2 different airplanes, traveled across the country. We're just somewhat tapped out from a social standpoint. So we were kind of done talking. And that's when we realized the wife put in the hotel address for a different hotel in Anaheim, an hour away from where we're supposed to be, producer Matt. Ah!
It's a rough look.
That guy just knew that we were, he didn't talk much when we found out that mistake. Because wherever morale was at that point, just from being drained, having that guy talk, it was well below. Levels below. It was a pretty crucial error, unfortunately. But the rest of the weekend in California went well. I still, from time to time, get baffled by time zones. It's just crazy to me, being out there, producer Matt, and it being 9 o'clock their time, and sports just being done for like the evening for the most part. I mean, with an exception here or there. Just different lifestyles. And then I was getting up at like 4 a.m., obviously, because I was only out there a couple days, so it's not like my clock was transitioning over. But the 6:30 NFL game yesterday, for me, it was 9:30 for people back here. I was like, this is incredible. I would love to wake up early and have football on and not have to wait all day. I think I liked, 3 hours having, 4:45, 5 o'clock Monday Night Football game. That's a little early. I think Mountain or Central Time still reigns supreme. But I don't know. Kind of liked it.
So how do you feel about like that noon slate in California time? That'd be
so like 9 a.m. I'm such a morning person. I'm cool with it. Like I would like that. I'd be all for it. But then again, I don't know. Maybe if I got out there and I was living out there for a few years, that would change potentially. But I was okay with that. Yeah, I was all right with the early start times. And I'm excited to talk about this. And we are going to play some Mark Stoops here on Kentucky Roll Call today. We will regrettably talk about UK football. It was the least amount of a UK football game I've watched in a very, very, very long time. I did have it on at the wedding for maybe like a play here or there. But for the most part, on Saturday night, I was pretty tapped out, which I enjoyed and I was happy about. I did go back and rewatch it, regrettably. I am ready to talk about it, unfortunately. But we must do it. We will do it. And we'll play some Mark Stoops and see what he had to say about it. But I can proudly say that I didn't get to watch much on Saturday night because I was at a wedding. But yesterday, producer Matt, I thought back long and hard. And I think yesterday was the most football I've ever consumed in a, 15-hour period. I watched it all. We had a long drive to the airport, so I had the Sunday morning the Ireland game.
Yeah, the one in Dublin.
Yes. So I had that game, got to watch pretty much all of that at the airport, waiting around, getting to watch some of those 1 o'clock games. In the air, had Wi-Fi, was able to stream, had Red Zone on. Great, and we had a direct flight, so it was just like 4 straight hours of kind of commercial-free football. That was great. And then the Packers were the night game. I was totally out. I was exhausted, wanted to go to bed. So naturally, the game ends in a tie and goes as long as possible for an NFL game to go. But I watched the end of that. So it was all-day football. I'm very excited to talk about it. Want to hear from you on the Gameday Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. Gameday Men's Health is redefining men's wellness. No shortcuts, just results. Testosterone, peptides, weight loss, sexual performance therapy. You can go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com to see what they're all about. Defining a new era in men's health, and they're coming for the dads because it's hard. It's hard being a dad, hard being a parent around these parts at this age. Sometimes it's 5 o'clock. You're done with one job. Now the tougher job comes, having to keep up with your kids. Game Day Men's Health can help with that. Get you a little extra energy, a little extra boost. Not feeling so sluggish there at the end of the day. All right, let's play a little Mark Stoops, and then we'll do a little bit of a show reset, if you will, and dive right in to all the football that we did watch and all the conversations we have. Here is UK football head coach Mark Stoops after another terrible loss.
Strike, so that's hard to overcome. But Gunnar is a guy that is most definitely a dual threat guy, and he operates this offense very well. He's a guy that can he just makes very good decisions. He can hurt you with his legs, and just buy himself enough time, and his just enough speed and athletic ability to really hurt you when he wants to. But he also operates the offense very efficiently.
Is there a point with wide receivers that you just decide to maybe look at some younger guys, or where's that position?
No, the older guys have worked really hard and have been very consistent through practice and give us the best opportunities, and we're waiting for all those guys to emerge. Young, guys, middle, old, you name it. We'll take anybody that'll step up, and and guys coming back off injury and just different things, and so we need them all to continue to progress, and we just haven't had the consistency that we'd like, and but Hardley's a guy that he gets in there in the games and he plays really hard and can do some things for us, and we just need him to continue to come along and mature and come along, because he can definitely make some contested catches for us as well.
Speaking of the receivers, Kendrick Law, a lot of jet motions, jet sweeps seem to work fairly well, but how else can you guys maybe get him involved in the offense?
Yeah, we targeted him quite a bit, this past week. We're trying to get him the ball. We know he's one of those guys. He's a big, strong guy on one of the jets, right in front of our bench there. He is very physical. He's hard to bring down, and so he's definitely a guy that that can make some plays for us. We're trying a lot of different ways to get him the ball, along with some of the other guys.
It looked like you only traveled with 3 quarterbacks on Saturday. Is that just because there aren't enough practice reps to get those freshmen prepared at this point, or do you have to consider that for Zach's status?
Yeah, you most definitely don't have time to get ready for a game plan with 4 quarterbacks. There's just not enough time, during the week and reps, with bodies and things of that nature. So, but we were trying to bring 4, and rotate those younger guys, and we will. But we needed some guys with depth on whether it be on special teams or different areas here this past week. Actually had to make a late switch for one of them.
Mark, just ball security with Cutter back to Louisville in this past game. What do you say to him when that starts happening? Because I'm sure it gets into his head, and just where do you need to see him grow, I guess, in that regard?
Yeah, I think we all know we can't overcome turnovers. We just can't do it. There's not many people can, certainly in our league. The way we're built right now, we can't overcome turnovers like that. Some of it's going to happen. It's not always all on him. Like you talked about the protection and the twist game and hit us, and it caused the sack fumble right there. I mean, a sack we could live with because we could punt them and pin them down and try to get a turnover ourselves. The throw on the RPO, the slant, he missed it by a half yard. I think that comes with experience and reps, and I don't want to slow him down on that. That's something that we need to progress. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but it's like, we get, a tip right there is a little unfortunate for us. He gets the pick 6. They have a tip that gets to converts to a first down, I think, or, at least a gain, so a little bit of that, we, forced an errant throw and it gets to be a completion, and, unfortunately Cutter gets the tip, for a touchdown. So I don't think, hopefully that's not going to happen much. So we have to continue to be aggressive and get him better in that area. And then one of them on the throw late, absolutely, inexcusable there. The money just kind of heaped up there. But I think, that comes with him, being young and really trying to make a play and help his team. We just, we can't have that.
It looks like on what Cutter's doing requires a lot of protection time.
Mm-hmm.
Did he benefit from quicker
Yes and no. I think, we have to look at things to make sure he knows where to go with the ball. You know what I mean? Right now. Again, I can correlate that to, people we play against that, when our pressure's coming, they know it's coming and we're shot free, but they still can get rid of it. So I think we as a staff going to make sure we're putting him in a position that he understands, you know what I mean, if pressure comes or, you know what I mean, where he can, evade and where to go with the football. And I think it's a combination of that, uh, you know, just eating it sometimes, you know what I mean, and taking a sack. And then there's sometimes when he can get rid of the football. And then there's times when we got to make sure, we're putting him in a successful position, at least to be able to make a throw. So there's a lot of things to look at that way.
Mark Dabron led you in tackles last week. He had 80 against Ole Miss. But what have you made in this play this season?
Yeah, he's been, very solid. I think, defensively, it happens a lot, for us. I think, we play a vast majority of the game very good. And then there's some critical plays in there. And even for him, even for Dave, there was a play or two that were critical, moments that, aren't acceptable to us. You know what I mean? That he can be better at. But I love his attitude and his energy and, instinctually he's doing a good job. There's just, as I mentioned post game, and it's true after watching the film, there's just some critical moments that we have to execute and be on point.
Just how much did that redshirt season last year help him?
Yeah, it definitely helped him. It did. And, that's a situation where it was a good thing. So.
Coach, would you describe Cutter as a resilient guy? Like, how do you continue to make sure his confidence stays where it needs to be going forward after?
Yeah, definitely. Good question. And I absolutely do. He's just one of those guys that, he's just getting started. He's very young in this process. And I know, for young players that are very talented, they feel like, okay, wait a minute, I just sat one whole year. I'm ready to go. And, that's pretty hard. It's pretty difficult for anybody. And so, but he is very resilient. He has a strong belief in himself. The players believe in him. He has the talent, and so he'll continue to work and get better. And I don't anticipate he's the type of player that'll get affected by that.
Are you able to have those open conversations?
All right, that was Mark Stoops discussing UK's 35-13 loss to South Carolina, putting a bow on that, turning the page over to Georgia week. That's good. You get blown out again, more bad history. You add to the SEC Power 4 losing streak. And what do you get? You get Georgia on the road, coming off a loss, and that spread opens up as Georgia giving 20.5 points, or it may have not opened up at that, actually. I thought I saw a different number. But it is at 20.5 right now with an over-under of 50.5 there. Oh, nope, that is what it opened at. 20.5. It remains at 20.5, and the over-under has actually gone down from 50.5 to 48.5 points there. Noon on Saturday down in Athens. Mark Stoops not going to learn a lot from that portion of the press conference that we played. He thinks Cutter Boley is resilient, which is good to hear. And it was more excuse-making, which when we played the Mark Stoops press conference last Monday, he was talking about how great of a bye week they had and how everybody was clicking and everything looked good. And he was excited and ready to go. And then the game starts, and eventually it morphs into more of the same. Pathetic and embarrassing football. UK gets a lead. Is in a comfortable position, has a lead and is driving into South Carolina territory. You're about a first down away from being in field goal range at worst in the second quarter. And then you blink, 21 unanswered points for South Carolina, and you're down 28-10 at halftime somehow when, with about 11 minutes to go in the second quarter, you're driving with a lead. And all of a sudden, 11 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you're down 28-10? That's pathetic. And that's coming off what Stoops had described as a great week. And that's how it all shakes out for you. That's unacceptable, but it's just what we're going to, unfortunately, be forced to accept the remainder of this year, and as long as Mark Stoops remains the head coach of the University of Kentucky. UK fans, unfortunately, have crossed over into the apathy portion, and it's we ain't at the bottom just yet, unfortunately. There are depths more to be explored. And then if Mitch Barnhart brings Stoops back for another year, if he just comes out and says, there's nothing I can do, the money's just not there, we're stuck with this guy, then, oh boy, then we truly ain't seen nothing yet. No, ain't seen nothing yet. It's not fun, though, and that stinks. It's not ideal to do a radio show with a team that is not good and people don't care about, and that's the territory we are crossing over. And we knew this team wasn't all that great. But getting blown out, that's a good way to get people to not care. And you were blown out to a South Carolina team that had looked pretty helpless most of this season, incredibly pedestrian, and they have a get-right game against you. You are the get-right game. Kentucky has regressed back to the get-right program. And Mitch Barnhart has made another terrible mistake. And I have no idea. I get asked all the time, are they going to keep him? Is he still going to be the coach? On the one hand, you can't afford to keep him. But on the literal other hand, you maybe can't afford to get rid of him. And it's a mess. And Mitch Barnhart goofed. He goofed on all this. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the X's and O's. Cutter Boley, he unfortunately proved me right on Saturday night. Seth McGowan's great. He chucked that ball at the. Did you see that, producer Matt?
Yeah.
When he threw the ball at the fan.
That was like, I get that if it was like a heated game later on, but like the first touchdown of the game,
Well, that fan shouldn't have been looking at him like that.
fans should have been in the stands.
He should have been standing there. It's classic Happy Gilmore. He said it was an accident. He was just trying to throw it like into the wall, and he's not a quarterback. Although, it'd be cool if he was. Couldn't really be too much worse. And it slipped out of his hands, and he wasn't intentionally trying to hit anybody. But he drilled that person.
Oh, if he was trying to do it on purpose, then he should have played quarterback that game. Because that man got clobbered.
It was Lenore Sellers' wheelchair-bound grandfather. And all the South Carolina fans are just flipping him off like, dude, what is your deal? Why would you do that? And it is true. But, hey, it was just an accident. Don't worry. If there's one thing you can count on with this UK team is they will make some mistakes. But Seth McGowan, he's good. I've been pretty spot on about my analysis of this Kentucky football team. Not that it's been all that complicated. UK, bad. Oh, yeah, okay, they are bad. How about that? Let's get that picture of Scoots. Let's make it the other big live in studio. I know he's not live in studio, but it's worth it. Scoots got gifted a red shirt today. And if you're watching with us on YouTube, we're going to have to update pretty much the entire YouTube page. Producer Matt, I know you hate hearing that because you feel like you probably just got it updated. But Matt Ponikoski, is he decommitted? There were some rumors that he decommitted over the weekend. We may have to get him out of there. Cutter Boley, we gave him a chance. I don't know if we want his graphic down there. Roush has left the show. I don't know if I want his bald head. I'm sick of seeing it for all these years. Maybe we get rid of that. DeAndre Liggins, obviously, he can stay. Jordan Love, I've got Green Bay takes out the wazoo. Y'all are going to be sick of hearing about the Green Bay takes. But the Cincinnati Reds are in the playoffs. Scoots has his Cincinnati Reds shirt. You can catch it on the YouTube page. After giving up on them, abandoning the Cincinnati Reds, saying that they are dead to rights and he doesn't care and he's not talking about them anymore, they made him eat his words. They're in the playoffs, and there's just no way that they fall short against the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to have a Scoots health update, more UK football talk. I watched all of the NFL yesterday, so I'm going to react to it. A tie between Green Bay and Dallas. Producer Matt, what's your takes on kissing sisters?
Not great.
Anti-kissing
sisters.
Well, that's what Green Bay and Dallas did. A big old sister kissing fest last night. We'll come back. We'll talk about all of it. Your text on the Game Day Men's Health text line. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio. Producer Matt Childers and TJ Walker. bright spots. Again, it looked good there in the first quarter for the Wildcats. Looked like they were going to be competitive in the game, but just a disaster of a final half of the second quarter. Put that game pretty well away. UK made it a 2-possession game with a field goal there near the end of the third quarter, but didn't have any fight left in them at that point. And it's, as we mentioned, another SEC loss for UK football. It's Kentucky's longest SEC losing streak, 7 straight games since September 22nd, 2012. And they didn't win another SEC game until September 13th, 2014, nearly 2 full calendar years. 17 games is the longest streak that has happened twice. Let's hope we don't get to that. But not a whole lot of reason for optimism right now for Kentucky football. They are all the numbers on the offense, while not surprising, are just hard to stomach. And it totally feels like a dead end with UK football right now. You've got to get rid of them. You have to do whatever you can. You got to go to Central Bank, make some promises with some rich donors. Do whatever. You just can't keep him around anymore. And it is so crazy how far things have fallen for Kentucky football that in 2022, the program was riding high, and the statue talk, while funny and always the Colossus of Stoops, always enjoyed that. It's just over. He doesn't have it in him. This last year was a disaster, and the pieces were there. We didn't feel like the pieces were there for this year, but we were going to just give him the benefit of the doubt, even though reason and logic suggested this wasn't going to be a very good football team. And it's not fun. There's no part of it that's fun early in his tenure when it wasn't, 9 or 8 wins every year or anything like that. They gave you something to be proud of, and not to do like the corny cliche Friday Night Lights sort of talk, but you saw the fight in them. You're seeing less and less of that. And I hate to be proven correct with Cutter Boley, but producer Matt doing the post-game shows, and I was out on Saturday, but I did listen to just about all. I didn't finish probably the last 20 minutes, the last 10 minutes of Schriebel filling in for me on Saturday night. But after the Toledo game, people wanted to get into a Zach Calzada, Cutter Boley debate. And I was just like, we cannot get into that debate. It's way too early. And turns out it wasn't too early. I was wrong about that. And then Zach Calzada gets hurt, but he was kind of warming up on Saturday. So he gets hurt, and then eventually they make the switch over to Cutter. What I tried to tell people, you can't just snap your finger and expect the backup quarterback to change the landscape of the program. And I get it. It was something new, and it was something fun, and it was different, and it was fresh, so we were going to get on board with it. But that Cutter Boley lost to Zach Calzada in the quarterback competition. They didn't pick Zach Calzada to be the quarterback just because they wanted to have a hidden gem on the bench. They did it because they thought he was the one that gave them the best chance to win. And then we saw that, and we went, oh, no. Yikes. That's not good. That's the guy that they thought was the best. And I tried to caution everyone that, all right, if that was the winner of the competition, I don't think the runner-up is going to make an inept, horrible offense go all of a sudden. And then the turnovers, you just can't. Mark Stoops, that was the most correct thing that he said in the portion of the press conference that we played. We know with the way, although there was another little part that I had written down. We know that we don't have a margin for error with the turnovers. We can't do it the way this team is built, the way that it's all set up. Well, the way it's built, who built it? The way it's all set up, who set it up this way? And yes, you are correct. This team cannot afford turnovers. The margin incredibly too thin. Just can't do it. So naturally, you go out there and how many turnovers was it? 4 turnovers?
I think it was 4.
4 turnovers and 1 fumble that wasn't lost. So could have been 5. By that rate, it could have been more on a couple passes. But yeah, that'll do it for you. And this is coming off a clean week of practice. This was coming off 2 weeks going into a bye. And who would have ever predicted Mark Stoops going into a bye week, coming off a bye week, poops the bed in the next game? Because it happens every year. The writing is not only on the wall, it is the wall. It's morphed into it. The whole structure is the writing, and the writing says Mark Stoops is collecting checks, eating steaks, having some bourbon, having some cigars, but he's not coaching good football and hasn't for a while now.
For me, when I was watching this game, going into this, I mean, it looked like if there was an SEC team in the early of the year that Kentucky could beat, South Carolina was it because, you used the word pedestrian multiple times, and that's what their offense was all season so far. I mean, absolutely nothing. Like, they had to survive off of special teams and defensive touchdowns. Unfortunately for Kentucky, they got those against them, but I figured that Kentucky would really hold up in this game because their defenses look so good so far, and their defense looked pedestrian in this game. Lenore Sellers just did whatever he wanted. Like, even when, the pocket would collapse, I mean, it was just dudes, giving up on the play, and he would, do, one spin move, and then he's got 35 yards of space, and it's just, I don't know. It just looked like it was, not jokingly the term, but, an unmotivated defense.
You said the word.
I have to say the word.
You said the word. Well, the defense, this has always been a Mark Stoops defense, and the caliber of player allows you to do a little bit more. You can turn up the temperature on it a bit. But it's a defense of, we will give up 5, 6, 7 yards. You can make that pass. If you want to fit it through this zone, go ahead and do it. And they just will eventually wait for another team to make a mistake, or they'll wait for a quarterback to be impatient, or they'll wait for a quarterback. I'm sick of throwing just these little 5-yard hitch routes. I'm ready to take a chance. And then in that zone, Stoops will attack. It's always been a bend, don't break defense. And I think you're just seeing that style without the talent that Stoops has normally had on the defense. You may have you may have a pro on this defense, maybe 2 pros on this defense. I don't know. And some of the younger guys, potentially that number could grow, maybe. I don't know. I could be generous with all this whole conversation. But you can't afford to miss tackles with that style. All right, we can give up 4 yards. We can give up 5 yards. Okay, well, if you miss a tackle, though, that 5 yards turns into 15, 25, 35, 40 yards. And Mark Stoops, he has been incredible at UK and not giving up huge plays, especially going against in the SEC. Sometimes some of the best teams in college football, sometimes some of the more potent offenses in college football. And he's been incredible about not giving up the big plays, but that's gone out the window this year. It's pretty much every single game you're going to give up a big play. You gave up a 59-yard pass to Jacobs. Sellers had plenty of room to run on the ground. He was averaging well over a first down every 2 attempts for him. And it's just so the defense isn't what it normally is, and you're giving up big plays. The offense is what it normally is, unfortunately, and you're not creating nearly enough big plays or doing anything. It's bad. It's bad. And you got a really tough schedule coming up, so it's going to only get worse. And you've got to move on from him. Because if he actually was, dare I say the word, motivated and hungry, you would see some small victories every now and then. You're not seeing any victories. And I don't mean that literally. That would be nice. But you would see some things to get excited about with the future, and you're not even seeing that. It's all over. It's all done. So Mitch Barnhart needs to do the difficult thing, maybe the impossible thing, and find $37 million and move on from this at the end of the year. You go to Stoops and you try to see if that number can come down at all. If you've got to play some dirty games, it's not the preference, but you look into you got to figure out what you can do to try to get that number down, and then you rip the Band-Aid off. It would have been great if he could have turned this around and gone out the right way. It's just not going to happen, and we're not going to keep the football program, the success of the football program, handcuffed to a guy who has mailed it in and checked it out.
It's just to the point where, Kentucky football under Mark Stoops, historically always has like special players on it, but like the team itself just does not compete with the players on it. So like in most recent history, you got like Lynn Bowden, Barryon Brown, and then this year like Seth McGowan, I think is a really special player. I think he's a really great running back, and he plays with a lot of like intensity, which you need in a really good running back, especially in the SEC. And it seemed like for other teams, when you're looking at that, you're like, okay, Kentucky's going to get a few good plays on us. It's just going to happen. Like, your dudes are always going to step up at some point. Can we weather the storm? And, like, it seems like this year for Kentucky, the storm is about as short as it's been.
And it's an incredibly difficult schedule. There's not a lot of optimism. Luckett had an article, Kentucky's long 2-touchdown or less streak was extended against South Carolina. Kentucky has now gone 11 consecutive power conference games without scoring more than 2 offensive touchdowns in a game. It's so incredibly embarrassing that it's real life, that we joke about Mark Stoops' offenses for a decade, and it's not so funny anymore. 11 consecutive power conference games where you haven't scored more than 2 touchdowns. That's incredible to think about.
Do you think that, like, Mark Stoops, you can blame a lot of, like, it's not over the decade, but, Bush Hamdan is the offensive coordinator this year. I mean, do you think Mark Stoops is just, like, picking offensive coordinators out of a hat?
Well, Liam Cohen is a successful head coach getting into it on the sidelines, on the middle of the field after the game. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Him and Robert Saleh with the 49ers?
I did not.
Keep my name out of your mouth, which, if you're going to chirp at somebody, I don't know if that's the dude to chirp at. But
that dude's running he's running like stairs before every single game for 3 hours.
Yeah, he's probably like putting pictures of Liam Cohen on eggs and just crushing them around the house. Like, the Jags and the 49ers don't see each other often, so who knows the next time they're going to interact. But I know a little bit of the backstory with their beef there. But good for Liam Cohen. I love seeing that dude succeed. I know some Kentucky fans don't. He left UK in a bad spot with the timing of it all, but it was to be in the NFL, whether offensive coordinator or head coach. And I remember being upset about the timing of it all and being done with him and not, like, rooting for him to do well, but not rooting for him to fail or anything like that, just not caring. And I guess at the end of the day, ultimately, I still don't care. But I like seeing him do well, and it makes you think differently on his entire time at Kentucky.
No disrespect to him at all, but like the name Liam Cohen always reminds me of like a guy who was in a boy band who became a celebrity later on.
That's what it reminds me of.
Liam Cohen, like the name itself, it just sounds like a celebrity, like a stage name.
That's a unique take. That's a weird place to go. I'm not sure how to comment on that. It sounds like a pop star stage name, Liam Cohen.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Or like a really poppy country singer.
But when he was at UK, it was the only time the offense really had some chops to it. I don't think that's a surprise. But it is just more embarrassment. Saturday was the 5th time under Hamdan that Kentucky scored 1 touchdown or fewer against a power conference defense. How many power conference games has Bush Hamdan coached in? 8 in the SEC last year, 1 against Louisville, and then it's been... So that's 9, and then it's been, 2 this year? So in nearly half his games, it's been 1 touchdown or fewer? And the thing is, sometimes I actually like the schemes and the way that, like, the plays and the way they go about the play calling for UK offense. Where for the longest time, not the longest time, all this is relatively short. We're talking about 11 power conference games. I could say, like, the jury's still out on Bush Hamdan. It's just tough to say. He got a quarterback that retired from the sport, a once promising 5-star retired from the sport, and a pathetic offensive line. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. And this year, he probably has more excuses, but at some point, you just need to see it look good, too. So I'm not convinced that Bush Hamdan is bad. And I know there's some people listening being like, how can you not be convinced? Think of everything you just said, all the streaks, the numbers, the lack of touchdowns. I'm not convinced that he's good either, but I do see some signs where it's like, all right, that's a good play call. You just got to make the throw. You got to get some separation if you're these wide receivers. Or I like the decision when it's 3rd and 6 to run the ball twice because it's 4-down territory. Like I like some of the decision making. The execution just is non-existent. I would say it's not there. It's not there. It doesn't. It's frustrating. Bush Hamden could be good. We have no evidence that's the case. He may not be as bad as the numbers suggest, but then again, producer Matt, we just have to go with what we've got.
You're right. That's all you have. You have it at face value as a Kentucky fan. And for him in his career, at least, like, Kentucky is kind of his oddball out. Like, obviously with Washington, he helped them go to a Pac-12 championship game. Missouri, he coached a couple games. It says that he averaged 33 points a game in the games he coached. And then Kentucky, that stat comes up that 11 consecutive power conference games where he doesn't score 2 touchdowns. He's coached 12 for UK. It's really the odd one out for him. So, like, for me, it thinks that, like, is he getting the resources he needs as an offensive coordinator to succeed at UK, or is it just fully on him?
Probably not as that's Kentucky football. The lack of resources is an issue just across the board, but 2021 wasn't that long ago. Kentucky's offense was solid enough. Anybody in college sports are going to say they could use more resources. Kentucky football, I promise you, is not an exception to that. I also think that IU was in a much worse spot than Kentucky was when Cignetti took over a couple years ago. He is a good football coach, so he has found ways to make it work. UK just doesn't have somebody on offense that can reliably find ways to make it work. Resources could be improved, no doubt about it, but so could play calling, decision making, which players you decide to bring in. Because at the end of the day, this coaching staff, and it wasn't just Stoops and it wasn't just Bush Hamden, it was collectively, you would think, a group of people that said, hey, Calzada will suffice. We think he can be good enough. If not him, we've got Cutter Boley that there's something promising there. They, at the end of the day, settled in on this quarterback room. And just far too often, the quarterback room is horrible. So why do you think that if the leader of an offense is not good enough, why do you think that there's going to be the snowball effect? Anyways, all right, I'm sick of talking about Kentucky football. Text into the Game Day Men's Health text line 502-414-1450, unless you all, of course, want to talk a little UK football. It's just been I had a great weekend. In real life, a great weekend. In the sports world, producer Matt, about as bad as it could get. The Ryder Cup, the UK unfortunately wins, but the USA loses, nearly gets blown out, if not for a nice Sunday.
Can I say something about this really quick?
We're going to talk Ryder Cup, but yes, go ahead.
I will never understand why at the end, Shane Lowry comes up clutch, good for him, but why do they get to move on and retain the cup because Victor Hovland doesn't play?
Well, it ended up that point in itself, I guess, wouldn't have changed the outcome. But it could have been a tie, right?
Yeah, they would have tied that hole, and then it would come down to those last two players, and Morikawa and who was the last one that it was finishing out?
I just had it pulled up.
I forgot. But if Victor Hovland doesn't get a half point for not playing, then it comes down to those last two holes, and you go to the end.
So, but I still think that they only needed 14 points, though, to keep it. The stupid little, if you're the defending champ, tie goes to the defending champ. So I think they would have been okay regardless. Your mic's off, producer. Well, no, I'm watching the YouTube stream. It's just delayed. I could be wrong about that. I've got more Ryder Cup takes. I was totally embarrassed by the overall performance of the Americans, just on the golf course, but also embarrassed. No, not with the Americans and the fans that were being mean, or in the stands that were being mean. Did you hear all that, the fans in the stands?
A little bit of it. Like I saw Rory was like chirping back at him and stuff like that.
The
But
drink thrown at Rory's wife.
I did not hear that.
This was a setback for golf. This was absolutely horrible. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Ryder Cup. USA gets smoked. UK gets smoked. Green Bay ties. The Red Sox did make the playoffs, so that was cool. Green Bay ties, which was disgusting. Made
Micah
me
Parsons
sick.
and Jerry Jones get to shake hands afterward.
I'm ready to go off once again on the Green Bay Packers in hour number 2. But all that aside, producer Matt, the biggest loss was with our Scooter Dingus health update, unfortunately.
Womp, womp, womp.
Poor guy off the wagon. Hits the booze over the weekend. I didn't get to hear Sunrise with Scoots this morning. But I don't know, but why did it happen? Was it because Indiana went to Iowa and got a big win? And they're 5-0, sitting at the top of the Big Ten standings with Oregon at 2-0 in the conference? I have no idea, but I'm disappointed. He's lost 8 pounds during this whole thing. He's proud of himself. He looks good. Go to the YouTube page. He's wearing his red shirt. He's giving a thumbs up. He's looking a little more trim.
He still lost 1 pound this week, so it's not 7, but he's still in the positive. We're still in the green.
I'm worried about the Saturday setback. But Scoots, I'm here to tell you, don't let that define you. But it was for the first time in the health update of Scooter Dingus, we've got a negative update. He got after it on Saturday night. But that's right. He says that was just the one-time thing. He's going to finish the month strong after that. Do we believe him, producer Matt?
I believe him. I mean, we knew that
like
at some point this was going to happen. He was going to have a little setback day. I'm just proud that it came 2 weeks in. I figured it was going to be a lot earlier.
And then one thing we're going to do in the new era of Kentucky Roll Call, we will take your calls if you want. I don't think I'm going to pound it over the head. We'll have it up on the YouTube page. But if you do want to call in, if you do have anything to say, I also should have thrown in St. X gets beaten by Trinity. Did you work that game, producer Matt?
I did.
What can you give me like a 30-second summary?
It was basically Trinity the whole time. Like, St. X kind of fought back, in the middle of the game and made it a little competitive.
That's what it seemed like following along on social media. St. X was within striking distance, but Trinity never totally sweated it.
Basically, as soon as St. X did get to striking distance, Trinity just put the hammer down on him.
Yeah.
Let the little brother play a little bit and then came in.
All right, we'll take it easy.
I'm just playing. Did you see the dude who ran into the St. X sign before the game?
Oh, no. What happened?
There was a guy. It was an accident. It wasn't on purpose or anything, but it looked like it was like some dude was just driving and then veered off the road and just slammed into the St. X sign before the game.
Yes. Okay. You're talking about like the outside of
yes,
the building.
outside of the
I thought you were talking about a situation like St. X was trying to break the sign, running out onto the field, and some little twerp just got rejected and snapped backwards. No, I did see that. It made me question on Instagram which Trinity players committed to Georgia.
Oh yeah, I do remember seeing
a little rivalry week shenanigans, and then Trinity goes on and wins the football game as they so often do. All right, we have so much to get to. Nothing more important than your text on the Game Day Men's Health text line. We're hitting that first when we return. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio.
over? I ain't heard no fat lady.
Welcome back for hour 2 of Kentucky Roll Call
Nothing is over until we decide it is.
with Walker and Roush.
We're just getting started, bro.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. Anywhere you get your podcast, just search for Kentucky Roll Call. And we are on the YouTube if you want to see producer Matt and myself. And call into the show, 502-384-1450. We will take your calls, won't beat you over the head, shouting out the number. I know it's just so much easier for people to text it in. Producer Matt, when we started Kentucky Roll Call in 2018, we weren't out on callers necessarily, but we weren't totally for them either. But also the show was so early in the morning, which isn't the most ideal time for phone callers, that we said, all right, let's just kind of be a text-driven show. That was the future, we thought. No, at that point, that was pretty well established, text lines into radio shows. And then it was great. We have incredible texters, so we just kind of rolled with that. We get to spend as much time as we like. Sometimes you get callers that just want to drag on, and you don't want to be mean and hang up on them, but you need to keep the show moving.
It's also just like safer.
It is. It's just a little easier, a little cleaner that way. No, you're right about that. But we'll open up the phone lines. If people are on their lunch break and just want to call in and say what's up or have something on their mind or just want to sound off into the radio, this can be a place to do that. All the other shows do it. We'll do it as well. 502-384-1450 if you want to call in. But Game Day Men's Health text line, that's kind of the go-to, 502-414-1450. And we'll go to the go-to right now. A texter says, my update on the feud with Robert. Okay, we last week we had a texters feuding with one another. He was going to go to the South Carolina game, have the VIP experience, and supposedly he was going to wear South Carolina stuff. Robert said he was going to. He told Robert to suck it. It was a big controversy. We've got an update. My Carolina gear is a white hat that said Cox University of South Carolina, was sitting in the president of the university suite, so chose to wear the most ridiculous thing I could find since I had to wear something USC. Greatest overall time I've had at a game. However, the product on the field is a disaster. Stoops has to be fired right now. Yeah, okay, so you wore South Carolina stuff. If you're a Kentucky fan, that's incredibly disappointing. To a point, producer Matt, I question your UK fandom a bit.
Like, I respect that he kind of wore, like, a neutral polo, I guess. You know what I mean? But, like, for me, like,
the colors look fine. Why did it have to say something with USC on it?
Yeah, you could have just got, like, a black hat or something.
What about just, like, a white Nike hat?
Yeah, a white Nike hat.
And how'd you end up in this spot to begin with, I think is the bigger question we all want to know. But Robert was right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, even
you said Robert was fake news, and Robert was right. He said that you were going to wear South Carolina stuff, and you wore South Carolina stuff. I hate to take sides amongst two texters that I respect, but a little less respect for the UK fan that wears the opponent's uniform, outfit, team gear.
Yeah,
disappointing.
I couldn't do that. If I wouldn't travel to an away game, I don't really care what setting I'm in. Like, I could be, like you said, in the president of the university suite. You know, I'm not wearing their stuff. Unless I'm getting some of the NIL money for that school, I'm not wearing it.
I would have to wonder the situation, like, where I would draw the line, because I'm with you. Like, I would just get to the point where it's like, well, then if they're going to force what I have to wear, I don't feel comfortable with that, and I'm just not going to go. I would draw the line and just not go if I'm having to be forced to wear something I don't want to wear. And I know there's a lot of people listening, and they're like, dude, it's a hat. Who cares? Go with your wife, put on the hat. It doesn't change the world. No, it doesn't change the world, but there's also a principle to the fact that, like, oh, the only way that my presence will be accepted here is if I put on the clothing that will make it most agreeable to you. What is this, the 1600s?
We're supposed to stand up to the man, not roll over.
Am I going to have a witch trial, too? If you see my lighter, if I light, like, get out of here. You can't force me what to wear. And God forbid I put on a UK hat, and then I'm no longer welcomed. Well, we just couldn't have that in the president's suite. What? Would it go up in flames?
You invited me.
Yeah. Well, the invite was contingent on what you're going to wear. So you just want to be around a bunch of sheep. Bah. Now, I get it. Like, hey, you're with the president's suite. You can't go bonkers when Seth McGowan throws a touchdown and then throws a 95-mile-per-hour fastball at Lenore Sellers' grandfather in a wheelchair. Okay, then don't go crazy. That's understandable. You can't make a scene. If you want to be a normal fan, you can sit out in the normal seats. But in here, you can, in your heart, for whoever you want, and on your hat, you can wear some blue, but you can't verbally go crazy. I can understand.
I think it would have been even funnier. Like, I get that he wore, like, like a jokingly South Carolina hat. Like, you can obviously tell it's a joke. I think it would have been even funnier if he wore all neutral clothes, but I mean, down to the shoes and socks was all white. Like it's obviously what team he's pulling for, you know what I mean?
Producer Matt, it's after Labor Day.
I mean, who cares?
You can't wear all white after Labor Day. No, I like that. That would have been great.
And then somebody's like, "Hey, are you? No, I'm just this is my normal afro. I wear this every day."
Now, I'm not a big fan of hypocrites, so I never want to be one myself. I will go to U of L games and put on like a Red Sox shirt or a red Nike golf shirt that I have, Producer Matt. But I would never do that when they're playing Kentucky. So, like, if Louisville's playing Virginia Tech at the Yum Center and the wife has an itch to go to the game, like, I'll put on a black shirt.
I do the same thing.
I think that's just being a good husband.
Like, I've gone to UK basketball games, UK football games. I did the same thing. I'll wear, like, a white or black shirt or something. It'll be just like a bland, like, Adidas, Nike, or Nike T-shirt, whatever, and I'll just show up.
Probably my least favorite thing about Mike Rutherford is how much he whines and cries about what other people wear to games. I don't think ultimately at the end of the day you should really care, but if you're a Cats fan and you're going to a Cats game, you shouldn't wear the other team's clothing. I think that's just where the line is drawn.
Yeah, that's where I'm drawing the line.
Easy, simple. If you're going to your team's game, if you're not allowed to cheer or wear your team's gear or cheer for your team, you're with the wrong crew.
Okay, so where do you stand on...
We've got Robert texted in, too, so we got to follow up on all this. This is great. I love it. I love it on a Monday.
Where do you stand on teams' fans going to their rival teams' games when they're not playing?
I have no issue with that whatsoever. If you're a sports fan, go watch sports, right?
But like you're going out there and showing up in like directly their rival team's like gear just to be seen out there.
Well, again, I wouldn't do it personally, but Matt, do we live in a free country or do we live in a free country?
We live in a free country.
So if a UK fan, which I would not do, but if they want to wear a UK shirt to a U of L Cincinnati football game, what sort of communist Cardinal Stadium country, Ellen Communist Stadium, is it that U of L fans dictate he can't wear a blue shirt because a blue team's not playing at that juncture? Yeah, does he want some attention? Sure, he seems like he wants a little attention. Is it the wardrobe I'd go with? Absolutely not. But when you're worrying so much about what a grown man wears, that doesn't impact the game. And I realize we're having this conversation right now about the texter. But you're a Cats fan, and you wore Gamecocks stuff to a game. That's why UK lost, I think. I think we can ultimately say that. Robert says, hand up, fellas, my bad on this. We all make mistakes. I forgot to also mention he's going because the university is honoring... Oh, sometimes when radio hosts just cackle into the microphone, I don't think it's very good radio, shockingly, but that was pretty good. Robert, hand up, fellas. My bad on this. We all make mistakes. I forgot to also mention he's going because the university's honoring his late stepmother with a scholarship named after her. done, you two. Well done, Robert. That was incredible. Producer Matt, they get us to get on this guy for wearing a South Carolina hat as you came into the game at Columbia. And the reason he's there in the first place, as we find out, is because, they're honoring his late mother-in-law. Okay, at that point, yeah, just wear whatever they want you to wear, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good look. Now I'm starting to think the all-white fit would be kind of like the Step Brothers scene where they show up in tuxes.
Yeah. Yeah, now I don't think the tux
I don't think it's too funny anymore.
Oh, that's pretty good. I still stand by the sentiment that you shouldn't be forced to wear something. That being said, like a white hat would have sufficed.
This also makes me think
white hat in South
that,
Carolina.
like, he wore the white hat as a joke, but it's a joke that says Cox University, and you wore this to your stepmother being honored.
That's true too.
So it's like there's both sides of this coin. They're both iffy.
And if you're wondering why I laugh so much, it's not because they were honoring his late stepmother. It's just that we did the whole rigmarole, and then they throw in that's the reason for the whole.
It's like a major piece of information.
You know what? He said hand up. He said he should have included that part. That is so funny. Good stuff on the text line. A texter says, I hate how Rutherford complains about Kenny too. We all know it didn't work with him as a coach, but he was a national champion player for them. Rutherford disregards that and treats Kenny like he's the Antichrist. It's very disrespectful. Well,
he was the worst coach in college basketball history.
Allow me to defend Rutherford. He doesn't act like that with Kenny Payne. He doesn't act like he's the Antichrist. I don't think he takes it past a personal level. Now, I don't listen to the Mike Rutherford show for 3 hours every day from 2:30 to 5:30 here on Big X Sports Radio. But I've heard him go on Kenny Payne rants for many years. I've heard him rip that guy, make fun of him, but he's kept it in a sports context. And you know what? When you are quite literally the worst basketball coach in the history of the sport, that's going to tarnish your playing legacy a little bit, unfortunately. And yes, the stuff that he did as a player can't be taken away. Watch out, NCAA. But you were such a bozo as a coach, said the most ridiculous things possible, and totally embarrassed the program. So he deserves to get ripped. I haven't heard Rutherford take it too far. Maybe that's not to say that he hasn't. I haven't heard it if he did, though. Another texter says, of course we can afford to keep Stoops. This is Kentucky football. Vandy would have to do the same, so would a bunch of other schools. Well, Arkansas fired their coach. Pittman is out, so producer Matt, there's just 2 hours isn't enough on a day like today. We get Bobby 2.0, 2.0. That's pretty cool. I mean, we get Bobby Petrino doing his second stint at a place that he left in tons of controversy. And remember, when he left Louisville the first time, it was with tons of controversy. And ends up getting another chance at both Louisville and now at Arkansas. And the way he left Arkansas was one of the most embarrassing ways that you can ever leave a place possible. That was humiliating. He did a press conference in a neck brace after some rumors were out there about why he was in a neck brace.
One of the most iconic photos in sports history.
It truly is. And you thought that if you would have told me on that day that Bobby Petrino would be the head coach again at Arkansas down the road, there's just no way you'd believe that. And the way he left Louisville after Bobby 1.0, if you would have told me, hey, he's actually going to come back and coach U of L again, you wouldn't believe that. You got to start to wonder, are we going to get 3.0s at certain places? How long can this dude live? Is there any more daughters to caddy for? Is that the secret fountain of youth? Caddying for your daughter. But he is back in charge. And I have seen Kentucky fans make the take that, like, look, Arkansas is not taking this. Why would UK? Virginia Tech's not taking it. Why would UK? Mitch Barnhart's not firing somebody. He's not firing Stoops during the middle of the season unless he's going around the football facility and he sees a reason to do it. So I think that it would be, I'll just take at the end of the year. I'll go with a parting of ways at the end of the year.
Look, in the history of the Bobby Petrino 2.0, go ahead and get your Arkansas Heisman winner futures for next year.
You're probably not wrong. And he's making some changes down there. We probably don't have enough time to really get into it, but that may be a good conversation piece for a little later in the week.
I mean, he's gutted the whole program already.
No situation is the same. No two firings during a season is the same. I'm normally on team wait till the end of the year to let somebody go. However, I think an in-season firing can send a certain message. And if you're really embarrassed and you're really sick of the way things look, I think the way you send a message is that it's unacceptable, and starting today, we're going to do things to start improving it. And I would love for Mitch Barnhart to make that statement, to send that message. He's just not going to. It's just not something that's going to happen. A texter on the Game Day Men's Health text line says, I made some good cash betting South Carolina to cover. Were Kentucky fans not hammering that bet, playing down there with their QB and Stoops after a bye? Easy money, right? Yeah, I didn't quite understand the line movement. The thing that made me the most excited about the line movement is that it existed. That like, oh, okay, well, what do they know? Because sometimes when lines stink, there's a reason for that stink. But Kentucky fans should have known better. I think did know better. And that's what we talked about on Roll Call last week. It's just like, why do I think that a freshman quarterback is going to go on the road in the SEC and this is going to go great? And it went pretty damn bad. 2 interceptions, a fumble, scoop and score. And actually, you were in the game up until that second quarter when everything just went south for you. So I do think the UK under, that hit with plenty of room to spare, unfortunately. What number did I tell you all? 18, 19, something like that? Well, it comes in at 13. I think it was 21 or 22, the regular one. So I told y'all to tease it a little bit. Hopefully you did. But there was money to be made in that one, unfortunately. Is it pronounced Tesla or Tesla? TJ says it with a Z, which you rarely hear. Tesla. It just that's not fun. It's just easier to roll it into a good old Tesla. I wouldn't get too worked up about it one way or another. Another texter says, standing up for Mike with you here. He recognizes Kenny was a part of the great teams. However, he also recognizes that KP wasn't the player that the KP supporters claim he was, and it certainly doesn't outweigh the damage he did to the program as a coach. If John Wall came back in 20 years and somehow became the head coach at the University of Kentucky, well, I mean, let's do Anthony Davis. Because nobody can have a better one season at UK than Anthony Davis. If he came back in 25 years and was the head coach at UK and he had totally mailed it in and didn't give a single slight crap about the job, and it was evident from everybody around the program and people watching from 1,000 miles in the sky, I would say Anthony Davis, that year was so fun in 2012. Thanks for all the memories. You're the worst coach. Get away from the program immediately. And I wouldn't even bat or blink an eye. Would it stink? Yeah, a little bit. But who cares? He wasn't he was Kenny Payne the coach when he was coaching. And that individual was so bad at their job.
Kenny Payne also did not have the touch on a program that Anthony Davis did.
No, but I was just trying to use
an
extreme example of like it just doesn't matter when you're doing different roles. If Arkansas wins out with Bobby Petrino being the head coach, they're not going to say, well, that first tenure it got kind of ugly there. Well, somebody may, but they'll probably more likely be like, hey, we probably just need to keep this dude. You're not going to care so much about what happened in the past. You're worried about what's happening now.
They're going to keep him.
To bring it all back to Mark Stoops, who cares what, again, those seasons were incredible. They were so much fun. And they were fun because they were different than what UK football fans had grown, unfortunately, too accustomed to, which was losing. And guess where we're back at? Back to the losing. So you were the guy that got us all excited and happy because you got us away from this, and you hung around so long, you got us right back to where you started from, unfortunately. It's poetic to a certain degree, Producer Matt. Even if Kentucky was to fire Stoops today, do you think any coach of note would come into Kentucky's football program for less than what Stoops is making? This isn't this Stoops' first head coaching gig. Yeah, I'm not sure what what it being Stoops' first head coaching gig necessarily has to do with any of this. And would they come in for less than what Stoops is making? I don't think they would care so much about that because it'd be more than what they had been making. It could be double or triple than what some of these people are making. And it just depends on what you consider to be a big name, but Summerall would be the absolute first call. And as a radio host, I'm somewhat conflicted, Matt, to do coaching talk conversation. Because on the one hand, it could just be totally a waste of time. Why would, in September, would we be talking about potential future coaches for UK when, on the one hand, we're not overly optimistic that Barnhart would even make a change? So it wasted conversation in September for something that's not even going to happen in December. I'm conflicted to even do that. But on the flip side, what else are we going to talk about? Do we break down Boley's interceptions? Do we break down how the soft zone is just getting picked apart by good quarterbacks?
Well, I think it's a good conversation, honestly, because Kentucky football is in such an area that is, it's like uncharted waters because, Mark Stoops is the fifth highest paid coach in the SEC? He's making, not a lot more, but he's making $100,000 more than Josh Heupel does per year right now.
That is so bad.
And he only makes $1 million less than Steve Sarkisian. So let's play an interesting game. Let's say Kalen DeBoer, they obviously just beat Georgia at Georgia the first time in forever. But let's say the rest of the season, they don't win another game. It's like he has to go. I don't care about beating Georgia. He's got to go right now. Do you think that Kentucky could fess up enough money to bring a dude like that in, or do you think that they would have to go for a group of five coach and kind of an experimental coach like John Summerall, and hopefully it works out? You're already paying Mark Stoops so much money.
They're not going to be able to go. First off, it doesn't happen a great deal. It's not overly frequent that you have Power 4 to another Power 4. It does, sometimes the biggest of the blue bloods can go pluck who they want. But Alabama, they were turned down. Lanning said no. It's just, so it's not like you can just ideally say, hey, we want to, and obviously we're not talking about Kentucky going and getting the best coaches of the best coaches or anything like that. But just the point is, you're probably going with the latter of your premise to begin with. That's just, you go for guys that are going to have their first chance at the big leagues more times than not. And Summerall, that would be, even though he's been very successful, the SEC, there's only 16 SEC jobs. And it's the biggest of the biggest for football. And the only thing above that is the NFL. The Big Ten's obviously good, and you can win in the ACC, and you can win the Big 12. I'm not trying to make any sort of rivalry or anything like that. But a lot of coaches are going to want to jump on the opportunity to coach in the SEC. I just don't think you're going to go, oh, this Big Ten program has been successful, but Kentucky views them more successful. They're going to go steal their coach. That's probably not going to happen. It's obviously Summerall is the clear-cut number one name. I do wonder if Will Stein would take the job if offered, though. You would think on the one hand, almost certainly yes. How could you say no to that? But on the flip side, he seems to have an incredible thing going at Oregon, and he may even think bigger than Kentucky someday.
He definitely is somebody that if you are 100% looking towards a new head coach, you have to at least call Will Stein. He's already come out and said that he wants to come back home, and he wants to live with his family, or he wants his family to move back home and everything, and he wants to play a head coach at some point, but he's making a lot of money at Oregon with a lot of success.
And it's always good to be coveted, right? Oregon's offense is humming. He's thought to be a big reason why that is. And you're just winning and you're making good money and you're in a good situation. And all right, well, this job wants me, that job wants me. Well, I can be picky. And guess what? The next year, they're probably going to come back a calling again. But I would say Summerall, if he says no, then Stein definitely needs to be discussed and talked about. But I think that there would be a couple other names as well. A texter on the Game Day Men's Health text line says, Kroger should give all Kentuckians half off grocery trips since the Cats only give half effort on the field. I would be okay with that. 502-414-1450. A texter says, I wanted to let you know you're doing a great job on the show without Roush, although we'll miss him. You remain entertaining. You do a great job. I'd love to see Will Stein get a shot at that coaching job. Well, we miss Roush too. Thank you for that. The show will go on. We're going to get somebody else in one of the big chairs. So when you're looking at the studio or when you're watching on YouTube, it won't just be producer Matt and myself and Scoots in a red shirt. But, no, it was great getting to do radio with Roush, but excited for the future of Kentucky Roll Call all the same. And thank you for the nice text into the show. Texter says, Stoops needs another extension, in my opinion. 502-414-1450 is the Game Day Men's Health text line. No, thank you. We're all right on that. We're going to take our final segment, come back, and I'm going to finish my Monday ranting about Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers. I do love them. Well, I don't love Matt LaFleur. I do love the Packers. Don't love Taj, though. Welcome back. One final segment. Kentucky Roll Call here on Big X Sports Radio, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. The Game Day Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. You text it in. We're going to read it on air, do our best. I watched more NFL football yesterday than I ever have in a single day of NFL in my 34 years of living. I was traveling back from California. The wedding, Orange County, producer Matt. Have you ever been to Orange County?
I have not.
I'm excited to talk about all the NFL that I watched, but first do want to tell everybody, when I was in California, the thing I missed more than anything in Orange County, and it was beautiful. The weather was great. I'll get into it a little bit more here in a second, but there was no salsaritas there. There was no wildly addictive chips. There was no fresh Mexican food in Los Angeles.
So people were just fiending out there.
Oh, yeah. People were they were asking me. They were like, you're out of town. Are you from Louisville? Is that where Salsaritas Fresh Mexican Grill is? I said, yep, it is. And they said, is it true if you download the app, they're always giving away specials, deals, monies, this, that, and the other? Yeah, that's true. That's what they do at Salsaritas. Download that app. They said, do you think they do catering all the way out here to Los Angeles? And I said, they probably don't do that. No party's too big and no party's too small, but a party could potentially be too far away. A fiesta, if you will. And that's what it is at Salsaritas. It's always a fiesta, whether it's lunch or dinner. But make sure you download that app. Wildly addictive chips, burritos, quesadillas, all of it. We love Salsaritas. We love Game Day Men's Health. We love your text into the show. Orange County was pretty cool, producer Matt. The weather in like LA area, Southern Cal, it's just not fair, really, when you think about it. It was just perfect. It didn't matter what time of the day it was. The weather was just perfect. It was just different forms of perfection. Do you like your perfect weather like a light jacket in the evening or in the morning? Maybe. Or is your form of perfect weather just a shirt and shorts, and it's 80, but it's not too hot? Like, that's the thing. It just didn't get too hot. We got back to Kentucky, and it was hotter than it ever was in California from when we were out there. The weather is just stupid. And I don't say this. This is somebody that hadn't been to California in 18 years or 17 years. But, like, you couldn't kind of understand, if you're homeless, why you'd go out there. The weather's just, it's air conditioning 24/7.
Heading out California way.
No
more internet.
See if they have any internet out there. They had internet out there. They don't have sports gambling. How ridiculous is that, producer Matt? Who would have thought little old Kentucky more progressive than big, mean, conservative California?
Honestly, that blows my mind.
It does.
When you said that, it made me think of, like, it's got to be because there's got to be, like, these not a casinos or something you can go to or something like that. They want to keep it, like, local, in my opinion. Like, they want to draw up the business around, because California is such a large area. But, like, I just don't understand how any state, unless you live in, like, the plains of Wyoming, doesn't have sports betting online yet.
It's crazy to me. But, you know, there's always more that meets the eye. There's red tape. So, like, are they going through a similar thing in California that Kentucky did, where, like, the horse racing industry doesn't allow it to happen? I love the Bobby Petrino picture, by the way. Or are there lobbyists from, like, Vegas that, you know, just don't want any forms of gambling in California because Vegas is close by and they like to who's to say? But somewhere like California, where you can just take a dump on the sidewalk, have your drugs delivered to you like it's a pizza, producer Matt. But they don't want, you can't, like, sports betting, that's just too much. I'm sorry. We got to have some rules in this civilized society. I can't have you all betting on sports. Sure, you can do drugs openly.
Wow, I was actually right.
But make a parlay, get the hell out of here.
It's because they have exclusive rights to operate casinos within house-banked games. It's something with the Native American tribal and corporate gambling interests. They, like, overwhelmingly, they have, like, some deal where, like, only the local casinos can place their own, like, can run their own bets.
Gotcha. They don't want to give up some of the pie.
Yeah.
Sports gambling.
It says they overwhelmingly rejected it.
Really dumb.
Sad day for California natives.
I would have never thought, though. When I landed, and I had made most of my bets, so I wasn't too worried about it. And we were busy. Like, we had a lot going on. The St. Edwards, where the wedding was in Orange County, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, very different than the St. Edwards in J-Town in Louisville. Both Catholic churches, both Catholic communities with a school, only one overlooking an ocean on top of an Orange County cliff.
But they don't have the Gaslight Festival.
They don't have the Gaslight Festival, and they're not the Braves.
They're not.
It was gorgeous. It was an incredible wedding. The wedding was at the wedding at the church was from 1 to 2, and then the reception, and this is all on California time, was from 4:30 to 11:30. What do you think about that, producer Matt?
That is
so 2.5 hour break between wedding and reception, and then a 7-hour reception.
I mean, I guess if that's what you want to do, that wouldn't be my cup of tea. Especially the break in the middle, I feel like I would just want to go home. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I can understand. I know that Hispanic weddings go for hours and hours and hours and hours, and that's a cultural thing. It's I can see the appeal of it, but it's just not for me.
I was very worried when I saw how long that reception was going to be. I was like, I'm going to need a nap at some point. But no, it was fun. They had a band that was just unbelievably good. They were fun. When you get a good band, can really carry the party at a wedding. And then you kind of lose track of time a little bit when you're like, oh my gosh, it's been 2 or 3 hours.
You should have told them for $50 I'd officiate it.
Yeah, I should have had you there. I would have seen if the priest would have moved aside. They had 3 priests there too, which I had not seen 3 priests at a wedding, but was great. It was a good time. First time away from the kiddos too, for mom and dad. So we were, and it was only for from Friday to Sunday. So we only didn't see them for 1 full day. But it was good. It was good to get away for a little bit. And then it was good to get home as well. The texter says, TJ, from a Cards fan, you're a lot more palatable without Roush, less groupthink, more rational. Okay, well, it's been 1 day that I've done a radio show without Roush. So let's just chill out. And Kentucky's coming off another 22-point loss. So I'm not really in the mood to be too boisterous right now. Scooch said he had a 12-pack and a 2-liter of Fireball. There's just no way that's accurate. And that texter also says, what was your favorite part of California?
If someone even invented, made a 2-liter Fireball by themselves, then that should be calls for arrest.
I had a buddy that listened to Scooch this morning, and they told me that he did get into some beers and Fireball. It certainly wasn't a 12-pack and a 2-liter. It's hilarious, though. But they never said why. There was never a reason why, producer Matt. There wasn't I was going to a party, or that worries me a little bit. That it was kind of just like a loneliness sort of thing. Gil's been gone for a while. He made that fire. I think he was just staring off into the fire, and he got sad. Those Bud Light Limes had been making eyes with him.
Oh, they were screaming at him.
They said, are we just going to keep playing eye tag, or are you going to holler at your limes? And Scooch went to hollering. And I think once he sucked down on a few limes, that Fireball, way too tempting. Scooch, it's how you respond. It's how you bounce back up. You got this. You're down 8 pounds. Let's make it another 8. The gap between the ceremony and the reception is quite common here in Wisconsin. Generally, everyone bar hops in between. Granted, I lived in Drunksville in the middle of nowhere, so that could be part of it, too. We went back to our hotel and just went to the pool. Just hung out at the pool. I've been to weddings that have had a break. That was one of the longer breaks, but, who cares? We had traveled to California. We had nothing else to do. That's the literal reason that we were there. Another texter says, a who misses Roush the most would be a fun contest. Who misses Roush the most? If you miss Roush a lot, let us know on the Game Day Men's Health text line. We can have a daily segment. What do we think Roush is doing? What do we think Roush is doing right now? He's probably typing something grammatically incorrect. Those boys, I didn't watch the entirety of the video, but they looked tired in their post-game recap in South Carolina. I feel like they may have gotten after it down in Columbia. You could see it in their eyes. They looked sleepy, but it was late night too. Not a bad night to miss the post-game show.
TJ, we actually have John on the line waiting to discuss some topics with you.
John, is this the John that we haven't read your text into the show just yet, John?
Yeah, you haven't read my text yet. So
you were like, Jay, you know what? If you take any longer reading my text, I'm just going to call in and bring it to you myself.
No, I was like, is anybody going to call? You know, I tried to keep calling because I was like, this is a big step for you guys. And TJ, congratulations on doing the show. I know it's only one time so far, but man, you're doing a great job. And of course, we do miss Roush and everyone else who used to be part of the show.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate it. That's nice. I'm going to get to your text for what it's worth. I'm going to get to all of them. The text line has had a great day, which I'm incredibly appreciative for. But what else is up, John?
Okay, so there was first off, you just said something earlier about three priests at a wedding. I have never seen it, or I haven't seen that in a while. I was thinking, I don't have a joke for it, but that's a great opening for a joke. Like if you say, hey, there was 3 priests at a wedding, right? I mean, it just sounds like an opening for a joke. I don't have anything else with that, but that's just one thing.
Okay, something to workshop.
Yeah, it's something that, I don't know how I can write with it, but okay, the whole Mark Stoops situation with the coaching aspect, I know it costs a lot of money to get rid of him, and this is the dumbest thing. This might be one of the dumbest things I've ever said, but I'm going to say it anyways. It's probably stupid. I don't know. But what if we do get rid of him? We can't really, maybe find another coach that's great, but we can find a coach that has some football understanding that don't cost too much. But here's the key. He's just a proxy. He's just a body that we use, but we use what we do, the first ever AI football coach at the University of Kentucky.
That is not the dumbest thing you've ever said, John.
Okay.
It would definitely be
cool.
progressive.
What do you guys think?
Producer Matt said you'd be progressive in doing that. I appreciate you calling in. We'll still get to your text, John. Great hearing from you. I hope you're having a great Monday. Thank you for being the first in KRC 2.0 era, Bobby Petrino 2.0 era. This is KRC 2.0 era. You are the first caller into it. So congrats. But like I said, we're not going to beat it over the head. But if people do have something to say, on the phone line, 502-384-1450. So that's a thing that's happening, Producer Matt. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I don't know if I've seen it in coaching, but there have been governments all over the world in certain positions that have elected AI figures. I think Albania did it. I think Romania did it. There's some other ones that have done it where it's like, all right, this government position now is just going to be ran by AI. John, that's not like I would honestly. That's a great radio conversation piece, John, for what it's worth.
Could you imagine the locker room speeches?
Right.
Imagine just the scene in Hoosier, but just AI is voiced over it.
It'd be great. It'd be electric. All right, guys, you're going to go out there and you're going to give it your all. We worked way too hard for this. Now, is there anything else you all need help on?
It's like offensive, defensive coordinators come in there. They're like, this is unacceptable. And then they're like, just wait till coach gets in here. And they open the door, and it's just like your middle school TV rolls in. They just play a tape, and it's just like a recording.
Wow. This is unacceptable. I can understand why you're feeling this way. What's something that we can do to make this situation better?
How can we make you motivated?
But there are AI. We don't have enough time today to do it. But yeah, there are government positions that are being ran by AI because there's no bias, there's no corruption, and it's going to take in the numbers, if you will. It'll take in the situation, and it'll compute what it thinks is the best resolution without political divisiveness or anything like that. It is interesting. It's an interesting concept to think. Like, what would you trust more? Our corrupt, terrible government or an AI, which would be probably created by our corrupt government. So it wouldn't be necessarily good either way. But let's just use that hypothetical at the micro level for John's call. Would you feel better about the Georgia game with Mark Stoops making the decisions on the sideline, or if an AI could compute all the numbers and all the information that could go into it, and it make the percentage-based best play call for the remainder of the game? And Mark Stoops will be the first to tell you he doesn't do anything with the offense. Yeah, I bet. But I would feel more comfortable with an AI running things. I have zero confidence in Mark Stoops at the end of half.
Speaking of AI,
but I don't think we have to worry about that just yet.
Speaking of AI, I used it for its sole purpose in life, and I got a few answers to John's statement that three-piece priest at a wedding would be a good joke. Would you want the corny one, the quick one-liner, the playfully clever, or the dry humor one, TJ?
I mean, I kind of want all of them when you put it that way.
I can list all of them.
Let's do the dry humor one.
The dry humor.
Okay.
3 priests at a wedding. That's 1 to marry them, 1 to bless the food, and 1 to make sure nobody sneaks a flask in.
Okay, not good.
Not great.
Yep, let's go to the next one.
This one's the playfully clever one.
Okay.
With 3 priests at a wedding, the couple didn't just get married. They got baptized, confirmed, and blessed before the cake was even cut.
Okay, now that one's a little fun. All right, that's the sacraments.
The quick one-liner is 3 priests at a wedding. That's not a ceremony. That's a staff meeting.
Yeah, all right. That it?
The corny one is pretty corny. It's 3 priests walk into a wedding. Sounds like the start of a bad joke. Don't worry. None of them brought a confessional booth.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. John, there's even more workshop for you. Let's get back to the Game Day Men's Health text line. A texter says, TJ, hopefully you aren't in the dumps with Green Bay. Dallas is a better team than people think and will make the playoffs, but the Green Bay special teams do suck. I'm just so sick of Matt LaFleur. I don't know really what to compare it to. Maybe it's like if you have a friend, or maybe you just have a sibling. I don't know. You have a friend who's dating somebody new, and they just suck, but your friend is in the honeymoon stage, and just, like, they're obsessed with this person, and now this person's just going to be around. And truthfully, I don't think I ever really personally experienced this in our friend group. I like most of my friends' significant others. But that's not a fun feeling, because it feels like you're just kind of helpless with the whole thing. And I feel that way with Matt LaFleur. Like, he is making, like, Green Bay's good. Green Bay is in a good spot. They're a good team. They're a good franchise. They're good. So people think, all right, well, they're good, so the head coach must be good. But there's a disassociation. The roster is very good. The makeup of the team is very good. Matt LaFleur will make big mistakes any chance you give him. The bigger the game, the bigger the chance for a huge mistake. I don't trust him in the final 2 minutes of half, similar to Mark Stoops. And it's just what thing can go wrong seemingly does go wrong. But Green Bay tying that game, it just should have never happened. Green Bay losing at halftime should have never happened. And I do want to give a ton of credit to the Cowboys. Their offense is legitimately, seemingly one of the better offenses in the NFL, and they don't even have CeeDee Lamb last night. They were spot on. They were good. Their secondary sucks, but so does Green Bay's. They played well. They played well enough to win the game. Credit to the Cowboys. My rant on Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love has nothing to do with Dallas and the way they played yesterday.
Do you think Michael Parsons and Jerry Jones kissed after the game?
Green Bay's super lucky to have tied that game with whatever the hell Jordan Love was doing at the end of overtime. They were super fortunate. That was the longest 1 second when they threw it to the back of the end zone, and it just hung on there. And honestly, it was a little cahoots, if you ask me. I would have thought that game was in Lambeau with the way the clock operator was operating that. Did Jones and Micah kiss? No. I was getting sick of them showing Jerry Jones on the TV like he was like the bad guy in Star Wars. It's a horrible angle for Jerry Jones, who has a lot of neck wrinkle and wiggle as is, but that upper angle of that is just brutal for him. Again, he's an old man. But Green Bay just did so many dumb and stupid things. It was so frustrating. They were lucky to win the game with a tie or tie the game with a field goal at the end. On a 13-play, nearly 5-minute drive. Let's not hurry up, guys. Let's not, if you score a touchdown, you do win the game. Don't be scared to try to win it. And then when they do go to try to win the game, it nearly cost them the tie because they run out of time with it. And then the field goal at the end of regulation was also bad. You have a chance to win the game right there. And this made no sense. But they run the ball with 22 seconds left, which is just basically their way of being like, hey, we're all right with a field goal. And then producer Matt, with 12 seconds left, they throw the ball. Like, hey, let's take a shot at the end zone. Maybe. Why wouldn't you just take 2 shots at the end zone? If you wanted to take a shot, why wouldn't you have done that? Why would you run the ball to begin with? They do these things time and time again that just make no sense. He has no plan. But that was a hell of a game. If you weren't a fan of either team, I think you had to be entertained. It's just games ending in ties suck. That being said, I don't want to do anything about that. I do think you should make the overtime 15 minutes, just like every other quarter. I don't know why we make that 10 and all the quarters are 15. Why not just make it? But I do like the idea of ending in a tie. And I think they've got the overtime process similar to a college overtime where both teams are going to get a chance. I like that as well. But just add a little bit more clock to that bad boy.
I wish.
But horrible. I mean, Green Bay now against Cleveland and the Cowboys come away with 0 wins in a 2-week stretch. That is not good, Matt LaFleur. Not good.
I wish in the NFL, I just think it'd be fun to watch because, I feel like kicking has got a lot better. If the end of the overtime period is still tied, they should go into, a field goal PK kickoff.
Out. So out. No.
That would be so fun.
Out on it. I don't want games being decided on kickoffs or penalty kicks or fun little 2-point conversion offs. If it's the time's over, I don't want to change the sport just to determine a coin flip winner, basically, at that point. Texter says, poop stoops and the Kentucky house kittens stink to high freaking hell, says one texter. Another texter says, John here, just change everything, TJ, on that graphic for YouTube. It's your show, my friend. Also, I'm done with the football team in general this year. That may sound bad as a fan. However, I had enough. I usually stay positive, and I give ridiculous predictions for the game because I want them to do good, and I want them to win. And I think if I show my support and stay positive, buy some merchandise and tickets, the football program and Mark Stoops will feel more respect and have more drive to do better for all of us that really care. But I'm so done with all of it. I've been ready for Coach Pope and the basketball Cats. I need them to start playing games immediately. We'll got to go talk to you later. That'll be here before you know it. And there actually is a lot of basketball news. We just won't have the time to do it today. As fans, we forget the coaches see the players every day in practice. They don't pick their favorites. They pick the ones that perform best in practice. I know, and that's why I just had to pump the brakes on the Cutter Love, just because that dude lost out to Zach Calzada. If you were expecting anything too different than what we saw on Saturday night, you just haven't been paying attention to Mark Stoops' offensive football since he's been at UK. TJ, what are your thoughts on LaFleur's coaching last couple of plays and clock management last night? I mean, it's just a total joke. It's just it's horrible. It's pathetic. It's tough to accept the news about Roush leaving. Simply devastating. TJ, I'm quite literally on my knees begging you not to leave. Your loyal listeners, I'm not mentally prepared for daily lifestyle to change on a dime. You don't have to worry about that, baby. All right, maybe a few texts we didn't get to. Keep them coming. We'll keep them rolling. This was a fun one. Roll calling, I should say. We're back tomorrow, noon. Thanks to producer Matt. I'm TJ Walker. This is Kentucky Roll Call.